Hi guys, and welcome to podcast 3 of The Protection Gap. Today I want to cover off why Consumer Duty hasn't worked as well as the industry had hoped. So Consumer Duty is in its second year in the industry. It was brought in as a good idea by the FCA to try and buck the trend of poor protection sales to mortgage ratio. And that ratio has been like that for decades. So, with the looming threat of fines in the future or even being removed from protection panels in years to come, why hasn't the protection sales ratio increased significantly? Well, let me put it this way. If you couldn't do a Rubik's Cube, you just didn't know how to do it, then I came along and put a gun to your head and said, do the Rubik's Cube or I'll pull the trigger. Well, you still couldn't do the Rubik's Cube. Even though you might pee your pants a bit, you still wouldn't be able to do it. Now that is the same with protection sales. Advisors haven't been shown how to sell protection. So threatening them with legislation isn't going to improve it. Because if an advisor knew how to sell multiple protection sales to every mortgage they set up, well, they'd be doing it because they'd make more money and protect more customers. So legislation isn't going to help the process. I mean, no advisor in the country, financial or mortgage, becomes an advisor and says, I am going to give people the biggest debt of their lives. And then I'm going to secure it against the most important thing they're ever going to own, the home that they and their children live in. And then I'm deliberately not going to insure them. Who would do that? That would be psychopathic. So the failure to protect customers is down to a lack of confidence and lack of ability. Here's one of the big problems. To qualify as a mortgage and protection advisor, the main thing you need to do is pass your CMAP exams. Now, you can do that on a 2-week crash course with some places. Just because you qualify doesn't make you an expert. Nothing has changed. You just know the backstory to mortgages and a bit about protection. That does not make you an expert. Now, with the mortgage side of things, we can just stumble through it and keep going, and we'll get better and better with time, hopefully. This is because nobody sells a mortgage. Customers come to us and ask for a mortgage. We would have to be awful at our jobs not to get that business. However, protection is not the same. No customer comes to you and says, listen, I want a mortgage, but my main concern is I need to protect my income. Because we don't live in Narnia. That never happens. In 25 years as an advisor, I never heard that happen. Now, with protection advice, it's the opposite of mortgage advice. We can just stumble through our mortgages and get better. With protection, the longer we go and the more fails we get, or customer rejections, or being ghosted, or customers just saying no all the time, we become disheartened and lose confidence in our process. Now, subconsciously, this will affect how we speak to our customers, making the situation generally worse over time, not better. Now, in my full-time role as a protection sales coach, all I do is listen to hundreds and hundreds of advisors. And at the start of the coaching, I just hear how they talk about it. And they're almost talking themselves out of the business before even asking for it. If regulation isn't going to fix this, because it isn't, what's the trick to doing this? It's educating advisors on how to sell protection. There has been no formal training for protection sales advice in the 30 years I've been in the industry. There was a half-hearted attempt in the 90s by the banks, but their training process was awful. At least it was training, but it was not very good at all. So if you want to become better at protection, then look at getting sales training, either from your network or from advisors such as myself. Think about it. If you wanted to become good at martial arts or playing a musical instrument, you wouldn't just try and figure it out for yourself. It would take years and you'd never get any good at it. You'd pay for a teacher, an instructor, or a coach that knows what they're doing to teach you what to do so you can learn from them. Why is it not the same for protection sales? I mean, with learning martial arts or a new instrument, that's just a hobby, and people still pay to get taught how to do it. Protection isn't a hobby. It's half of your responsibility and half of your career. So whilst the industry and I are grateful the legislation is there to back up the need for protection, ultimately our industry is not going to improve until more advisors, and I'm talking thousands of advisors, receive proper protection sales coaching. Only then will the protection to mortgage ratio get anywhere near where we need it to be.